What does it take to change a nation? A gun? A war? Or a single man who refuses to bow to hate? This is the story of Nelson Mandela, a man who spent 27 years behind bars, but walked out not with chains of bitterness, but with the key of forgiveness. The story of how one man turned pain into power, and how his life echoes a truth. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the triumph over it. South Africa, 1948. A land divided not just by fences, but by law. The system was called apartheid, a cruel architecture of separation. Whites lived in privilege, blacks were forced into poverty. They couldn't vote. They couldn't choose where to live. They couldn't even walk freely in their own land. It wasn't just unfair, it was inhuman. And in this world of oppression, Nelson Mandela was born to rise. Mandela was not born powerful. He was a young lawyer, standing in small courtrooms, defending those who had no voice. But the injustice was too great to fight case by case. So he joined the African National Congress and became part of a movement bigger than himself. He once said, "I cannot and will not give myself up to despair. That is defeat and death." Peaceful protests filled the streets. Songs of resistance echoed across villages. But the government answered with bullets. Mandela and his comrades faced a choice: stay silent or fight louder. He chose louder. He helped form Umkhonto the Spear of the Nation, a movement that would resist with more than just words. It was dangerous. It was costly. And soon, it would cost him his freedom. In 1962, Mandela was arrested, charged with sabotage, treason, conspiracy. The court demanded an apology. Instead, Mandela gave the world a speech that still echoes today. "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Those words shook the courtroom and sealed his fate. Life imprisonment. Robben Island. Cold, harsh, unforgiving. Here Mandela broke rocks under the sun. And yet, he was not broken. For 27 years, he lived behind bars. Years when the world forgot his face. Years when bitterness could have consumed him. But in the silence of his cell, Mandela learned something greater. He learned patience. He learned endurance. He learned that the chains on his body could not chain his vision for freedom. And across the world, his name became a symbol. Students in America, workers in Europe, churches in Africa, all cried, "Free Nelson Mandela." And then, in 1990, after nearly 3 decades, the gates opened. The world watched as Mandela walked free. Tall, calm, smiling, not with revenge, but with forgiveness. And his first words to the people: "I stand before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant. Your tireless and heroic sacrifices have made me who I am." 4 years later, South Africa held its first free election. For the first time, black and white stood side by side, casting their votes for the same future. And when the ballots were counted, the prisoner had become the president. Mandela, South Africa's first black president, led not with vengeance, but reconciliation. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, not to hide the past, but to heal from it. He chose unity over division, peace over war, forgiveness over revenge. Nelson Mandela's story teaches us this: power is not holding a sword, it's holding forgiveness when you've been wronged. Freedom is not just walking out of prison, it's walking out without bitterness in your heart. He said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die." Mandela chose not to drink it. And because of that choice, a nation found healing. The story of Nelson Mandela is not just history. It is a mirror. A reminder that even in the darkest prisons, the human spirit can remain unbroken. So ask yourself, what chains are you carrying today? And what would happen if you chose to forgive? If Mandela's story inspired you, share this with someone who needs hope. Comment, "Freedom is worth fighting for." And subscribe for more stories that change the way we see the world. Because the fight for freedom isn't over, it lives on, in you.